In its latest report, the World Competitiveness Yearbook 2010, published by Switzerland-based Institute of Management Development, has improved South Africa's ranking from 53 to 48th place. That was 2 years ago, and this year South Africa features at number 44. They're looking at a variety of factors, such as the country's ability to pursue an industrial agenda, but there are other constraints posed by the growing importance of climate change issues, but also questions around how the South African economy works around issues of black economic empowerment and affirmative actions. Sello Mosia is the Executive Manager for Value Chain Competitiveness at Productivity SA, and he joins us now. Sello, thank you very much for coming through. So for the second year running, South Africa has improved. What's the country doing well?
It's doing a few things, I think about. It's more about the investment flows abroad. Cost of capital doesn't discourage business. Cost of living has improved. Actually, it's better than most of the competitor countries. We have the risk of political instability also, being better compared to the last time when we were measured. Knowledge transfer between business as well as universities has improved also. So there's quite a few things that we're doing okay.
I'm going to bring in Vickers immediately on this one. Cost of capital as a factor. We've seen the volatility of the rand, and we know that although we've enjoyed very high capital inflows into South Africa, the rand was regarded as a fairly uncompetitive currency because it was so strong. Now that we're seeing this volatility and it's weakening, how will that impact on capital inflows?
I think that what we've seen in the rand is the rand has been one of the most volatile countries in the world really since roughly 2000. So the volatility we're seeing is nothing new to us. It's actually the rand has been slightly less volatile in the last year than it has been for a while. We believe that the rand has been too strong, and that has hindered competitiveness. But these surveys don't really look at your competitiveness from a currency point of view. It looks at the structure of your economy and your society and whether that enables you to compete.
And whether you get value for money for what you invest into the economy.
Yes, indeed, and also will the things that the country is doing make it more competitive or less competitive going forward? Okay,
so then, in terms of value for money for the investor, the biggest concern is skills and the high unemployment rate. An investor could help to abate the unemployment rate by investing in the economy, but they need labor productivity, and we've got a skills deficit in this country.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's one of the challenges. It's always been there with us, and I think we've done a lot of investment in that direction. There's been institutions that have been put in place. Actually, the pronouncements and structures that are put in place are the correct ones. The only thing is, when are we going to start turning the corner to address this issue? But also, I think the main thing that still is outstanding, it's the issue of the relationship between labor and management. I think that's something that needs to be improved. It will take us some time, but it's gonna get there.
What do you mean by the relationship between labor and management?
Look, we have a history, and we're still having this whole sense of labor feeling that they deserve more than what they're getting. We're getting a sense that management also feels that labor has to start playing their role in terms of making more input in the business and so forth and so on. But this situation, it's obviously playing itself out, and I'm sure with this kind of interaction, we're seeing more interactions, more discussions between labor and management, and that should be
another
okay.
concern that was raised in terms of South Africa's competitiveness is the equal opportunity legislation, that anybody investing in the South African economy must have a black partner by way of BEE legislation and must pursue an affirmative action agenda by way of management and skills development within the corporation.
Yeah. Well, we know that there has been an equal representation in all levels, including management, including ownership, and so forth and so on. These are the real issues. The question is, how do we address it? To address it in such a way that we don't leave a bitter aftertaste on the one party. Yeah. That's the main thing, because I think the way things are still going is that the two parties, you know, management, labor, owners, those that don't own, haven't found a platform of discussing properly and finding a common place around that.
Other concerns raised is that South Africa doesn't really have very clear rules around property protection, and that's security of tenure, and also personal security. So it's two issues. We hear talk of expropriation, but we know there are constitutional elements that protect your property rights in South Africa, but politically we hear about expropriation. And then we also know about the crime situation that Vickers referred to earlier on. Violent crime is a real put-off.
Yeah, that's very true. The one thing that I wanted to just raise this morning about this expropriation, it's basically the a pace of redistribution. We know that we have a program of land redistribution that relates to property and so forth, and the pace has been very slow. And I think that led to the sense that you know, people have to talk hard about you know, restitution and so forth and so on. But I think what's important, it's upping the pace and achieving the targets like government is always doing. But do it in the right way, do it within the law, because the Constitution protects this, and you can't do anything outside the parameters of that.
That's the ambiguity here, Vickers Mosia, that the Constitution protects your property rights, your right to tenure. But politically we hear talk of expropriation, and it's quite emotive talk.
I think that if you actually look at the legal situation, South Africa is one of the better countries in the world in terms of having proper property rights, of having proper record of who owns what property, etc. If you ever try to do business in China, you'll appreciate that in South Africa it's much easier. I think the concerns are twofold. The one concern is that because of management attention to BEE, they don't pay the same attention that they should to being globally competitive. So it's a management focus issue. And I think there is also, in terms of the restitution of agricultural land, the process has taken a long time, and in the same way that recipients or potential recipients of land have been saying this is slow, at the same time a lot of people who are farming are saying, but I can't actually expand my farming operation because I'm not sure that I'll have this farm in 2 years' time. So we need to get that behind us. We need to move very quickly to settle that issue, I believe.
So very briefly, how does South Africa compare to other emerging market economies by way of this report? Because Goldman Sachs did a study of the next 11 emerging markets to look out for, and in it are Egypt and Nigeria. South Africa doesn't feature.
Well, I think they're looking at different criteria. It's basically about the market potential and so forth. I think Goldman Sachs is looking at trading blocks and issues around that. This one looks more around, you know, the ability of the country or the economy to create an environment where its enterprises can be competitive. And in terms of this, South Africa, when you compare it with Nigeria and Egypt, unfortunately, it's not ranked. They are not ranked here, but surely I think you'd find an interesting picture.